Plottr is not a writing software. It is a planning software that is designed to get you to the writing process.
What if writing a book is not just a way to transform the lives of many people, but also a way to create financial freedom and leave a legacy? Wouldn't you want to find out just how to do that? Well, that's what this show is all about.
Hi, I'm Hennika Watkis Porter, speaker, coach, author of Podcast Power, and the host of the Entrepreneurial You podcast, inviting you to listen to the Authorpreneur Secrets podcast, brought to you by Ruth Taylor, best-selling indie author and the Caribbean's most trusted voice on entrepreneurship. Tune in for inspiration, information, and innovation to write and win with books. Get ready to dominate entrepreneurship.
Greetings, entrepreneurs. Welcome to episode 100 of the Authorpreneur Secrets podcast. Can you believe it? I'm your host, Ruth Taylor, and this is a show that gives you the roadmap to take charge of your publishing with stories and strategies to dominate entrepreneurship. And we want to thank you if you've been a faithful listener since we launched the show in May 2021. So it's 100 episode. And you know, when you reach those monumental points, you want to do something special. And on the show, we primarily introduce you to Caribbean authors, and we introduce you to tools that will help you to make your publishing journey easier. And every now and again, we bring on a non-Caribbean guest. And for this 100th episode, we have another non-Caribbean guest who is introducing us to a tool called Plottr that seeks to help us with outlining our books, managing our projects, managing series, and makes the writing process much easier. So in the interview segment, I am going to be introducing you to Troy Lambert. So before we get into that, let's have a word from our sponsor, Bamboo Sparks.
Your book is the perfect spark to get the fire going in your personal life, career, business, or ministry. Light that book spark today with Bamboo Sparks, a global independent publishing services and publishing education and training business for transformation. Bamboo Sparks will take you from manuscript to market faster than you thought possible and even manage the process for you. Check out their three main offerings: the Self-Publishing Spark, the Rocket Writing Spark, and their Bamboo Sparks done-for-you management deals for authors in the Caribbean and the diaspora. Discover how Bamboo Sparks can help you to publish and leverage your book to grow 90 feet tall at bamboosparks.com, and that's bamboo with a U.
Okay, it's episode 100, and I'm so grateful that I've been able to be consistent. And this episode serves to conclude our Publishing Tips for Authors and Resources series. And I want to announce that I have finally finished editing the Embracing Destiny audio book. It's 21 Pep Talks to Walk in Your Greatness. So I was doing the readings bit by bit at the start of the year, and those readings are on YouTube and Facebook. So now I have compiled everything into one audio file. So I am going to make that available as the gift to you so that you too can embrace your destiny. And you will find it on my YouTube channel. And I am also announcing that I am starting a Patreon account whereby you can support me on my author journey. I'll be releasing more audiobooks, and I'll be having a monthly self-publishing and entrepreneurship Q&A session, and you can join my Patreon support at different price points. There are different tiers. You can enter at the $5 tier, you're at the $10 tier. And over the next coming weeks, I will be sharing more about the different tiers. And if you want to support me on my author journey, I want to encourage you to become a Patreon supporter. All right. So without further ado, let's get into that interview with Troy Lambert, the education lead at Plottr. On episode 3 of the podcast, we had Dave Chesson. He introduced us to Atticus, and that's a formatting tool that has made formatting books so much easier for us as authors. And today I have with me Troy Lambert from Plottr. He's the education lead. Plottr is the #1 book outlining and story Bible software. Troy is the author of over 25 novels and several works of nonfiction. He's also a mystery author and book editor. He lives in the mountains of Idaho with his wife and 2 very talented dogs. So he's a dog lover. So without further ado, let's welcome Troy to the show. Welcome, Troy.
Hi, Ruth. Thanks for having me.
It's such a privilege to have you. One of the things I like to do on this podcast is to introduce my Caribbean authors at home or in the diaspora to tools that will make the publishing process much easier for them. And Plottr is one of the tools that I've been hearing about. And today I want you to convince me and my audience as to why we should sign up for Plottr as we seek to outline our stories. But before we get into that, I have to ask you, as a non-Caribbean person, have you ever been to the Caribbean? And which country, if so?
No, and it is on my short list. My wife and I really, really want to come to the Caribbean. This is my winter plan eventually when I make millions of dollars. Because I live in Idaho right now, it is snowing at my house. Started about half an hour ago, and it snowed yesterday too. And so it's relatively cold here, and we would like to escape in the summertime to the Caribbean. And so I don't know which country I would like to visit first, but I would like to make that an annual February pilgrimage. When I'm sick of winter here, I can go to the Caribbean, get my fix of warmth, and then come home. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, since you're not sure which one, I want to recommend my country, Jamaica. Come for some reggae music, some sea and sand and jerk chicken, and just enjoy the vibes. And make sure you go to the Bob Marley Museum.
Oh, yes. And Jamaican rum is one of my favorite. Anyway. Yeah,
okay, so you passed the test.
Anyway.
You like Jamaican rum, so you passed the test. You're no Jamaican. Before we get into Plottr, you're an author. So talk to us about your journey into writing. How did you become a writer? And what's the inspiration behind your writing journey?
So I always wanted to be a writer. When I was 14, I told all my, high school counselors and all those people that I wanted to be a writer, and they all told me that it couldn't be done. And because, of course, they were the experts, and at that time, this was fairly common. It's still fairly common, but it was fairly common to be someone who would have more of an artistic type dream, and they would basically say, no, you can't make money at that. You need to have a plan, an alternate plan. And so I believed them because, they were the experts. And so I spent a long time on a journey looking for some way to make my life meaningful without writing. And frankly, it didn't work. I just found myself, it was in the early 2000s. I had a really bad motorcycle accident, one of those moments where you almost die. And then I go, you know what? I need to make this writing thing work because I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the rest of my life if I don't. And so in 2009, I started writing full time, and that involved a lot of freelance writing, a lot of editing, a lot of, writing books. But the good thing was I had a lot of experience behind me, which really helped. And my timing was good. Indie publishing was kind of on the rise. It wasn't such a dirty word anymore. There were a lot of small presses that were taking advantage of those same tools that indie authors did. So there were a lot of opportunities for me. My timing was really good. But my journey was really about me, finding my purpose and actually fulfilling it. And so I've been doing that full time since 2009. And we got to update my bio because I just finished book number 31 a week and a half ago. And I mean, I'm super excited by it, and I'm super excited for the next one. And so this is just the ultimate life. It's absolutely wonderful.
Just a quick question. Are all of these books independently published, or did you do some traditionally?
Well, so I've done hybrids. I've been published by, one more traditional publisher, a few small presses, and then I independently published as well. So I've done all of the things you could do in publishing the paths to publication. I have done them at one time or another. Most of my stuff now is independently published. I do have an anthology coming out later this year that's published with a small press, kind of a bigger small press, but I kind of do a blend of both. And I tell people it's really about control, like how much you want to control the process and how much you want to control the profits. Or especially if you have certain distribution needs that you need your book to get into certain locations, there are times when traditional publishing is 100% an appropriate option. So it's really, your path to publication is a very personal. For me, it's about each individual project. Where do I want this project to go? What do I want to do with it? And how much control do I want to have over it? And along with that control comes all the responsibility at the same time. So, yeah.
I love it. So we are getting a clue here, if you're new to the podcast, as to why some persons would go traditionally published route and why others stick to indie. It's a matter of the locus of control and your purpose. All right. So let's segue into the meat of the matter as it relates to Plottr. What is Plottr, and how did you become the education lead for this project?
So I actually became the education lead accidentally, which is one of those happy accidents that have happened a lot in my life. Explain first what Plottr is it's a visual outlining software that very much resembles like a corkboard or a whiteboard with like boxes or like note cards on it. But those note cards are much more powerful because using tags and using some of the features in Plottr, you can create relationships between them. So you're able to look at your plot in a variety of ways, or your underlying story. And we'll talk about that because we'll talk about nonfiction in a minute. I know we're going to get to that. But also, the other feature about it that's really important is the series Bible. So if you're writing a book or a series, especially in the fiction realm, you have a bunch of characters, you have a bunch of settings, and there are times when in later books you'll need to refer back to those. And so you have what's called a series Bible, which basically keeps you from having to remember somewhere in the back of your brain what color Susie's eyes were in chapter 2, especially if she was a minor character. And so you have those things you can refer to. And what this is about really is efficiency and also fun, avoiding some of the frustrations that people have with writing. So the efficiency part is I can look back at what color Susie's eyes were, go right back to my writing, and I don't lose my focus. I don't lose where I'm at in my writing by going back and reading chapter 2. But the other aspect of it is nobody likes that frustration when you have writer's block or when you can't remember somebody's eye color. Because for me, I'm obsessive. Like, if I can't remember that eye color, I'm going to go and find out that eye color right now. I can't just put eye color in parentheses and come back to it later. My personality will not allow me to do that. My brain will forever be stuck for my trying to write the next couple of paragraphs on what color that person's eyes are. So for me, I was using like mind mapping and cork boards and whiteboards. I had an actual huge whiteboard in my office that I had drawings on with different colored arrows. Not super efficient and kind of messy, but I didn't really have anything else at the time. I walked into a dealer's room at a writer's conference, and a friend of mine came out. He came walking over to me and he says, "There's a software over there in the corner. You have to buy it." And I went, "I do?" Because when you tell me I have to do something, well, I'm a typical writer. I'm like, no, I don't. So I went over and I looked at it. And after about probably less than a 5-minute demo, I bought it. And that software was Plottr. It was back before anybody knew what Plottr was. I was one of the first 100 and some users in the country. But I saw the potential of the power that these things had. And so since then, of course, we've added all kinds of features and all kinds of cool stuff. So in 2020, Plottr kind of did a relaunch with some additional marketing campaigns and stuff like that. And they basically came to me and said, "Hey, you're a big ambassador for Plottr anyway, right?" And I said, "Yeah. I love this software and I preach it to people all the time." And they're like, "How would you like to do that as our education lead?" And I said, "Sure." And so I came on board having no idea what this position would turn into. I mean, it went from, doing a few little things and making some videos to being on podcasts and being all over the web and and all kinds of conferences talking about Plottr. So it's kind of a fun, interesting journey, but it certainly wasn't on my radar or something on purpose. So.
And some of the best things that happen in our lives are not planned. And so we are so happy you fell in love with the tool. You got excited because of a demo. So
Yes,
we want to get excited too. I know when you go to the Plottr website, there are videos that introduce you, but for the sake of my audience who are itching to get a tool that will help them to write better books, I want you to do a 5-minute demo for us so that we too can become Plottr fans. So over to you, Troy.
well, perfect. And thank you for that. And a 5-minute demo is going to be really fast, because a 5-minute demo, when I first looked at Plottr, was this screen that you see in front of you right now with very little else, because there were very few other features of Plottr. We basically had this, and we had some notes and some characters and places that we could play with. And I'll show you those in a second. But this was what got me excited, because unlike my whiteboard, I could make a number of these plot lines like I have down the right-hand side. Now, normally I write mysteries and thrillers. I've also written a lot of some nonfiction using Plottr as well. But usually my mysteries and thrillers, I have a main plot and a subplot, and then I have a couple of other plot lines. Now, in this one, this is a demo file I use a lot, and it's the Three Little Pigs. So in this one, I've created 5 different plot lines for each individual character. So I can make notes in these note cards about each of those individual characters. So I can see that the first pig, in this particular scene, scene 2, the pigs go and build their houses, and we see what they built their houses out of, right? So kind of cool. But me, from the ideation phase as an author, now I've got an idea of what's going to happen in this scene, and which pig does what, and what point of view to tell that from. So it gives me some amazing tools. Now, across the top, we have chapters. At the moment, it says chapters, but it doesn't have to. You can come to this structure and you can change it to beats or something if you want. Okay, so I happen to write in beats. It's my usual mode, and you'll notice that that is now changed to beat, because that's how my brain works. However your brain works is the way it works. So even if you're doing nonfiction, there are other ways you can do this as well. Now, these scene cards are the note cards I was telling you about, and these have a lot of power, because you can, first of all, you can move them using this drop-down menu right here, but you can make relationships with them using characters and settings, and then some user-created tags that you can do, and you can even change the color of these scene cards. So for me, when I'm writing, they're blue. When I'm ready to edit them, they turn yellow. And when I'm done editing them, they turn green. And once all of these scenes all the way across my plot line are green, it means that's ready to send to my editor. So that's how I use that. People use colors in different ways. You can use them however you want. And to make this a 5-minute demo instead of a 20-minute demo, we have some starter scene templates: goal, motivation, conflict, proactive and reactive scenes. I can go in depth with any one of those things or all of them. And we also in here, though, you have all these rich text features. You can add photos and links and all that kind of stuff. And you can do that throughout the program. So we didn't used to be able to do that, but now you can do that throughout the program. You can also view this plot lines once you set them up as an outline format. And then you can look at your plot lines one at a time. I use this to spot plot holes. So if Wolf is my subplot, I can look through it without looking at the main plot and make sure that this makes sense, even if the main plot wasn't there. The other place is notes. You can house research here. I house all kinds of my research here, because then I can refer to it when I'm in the writing process without having to go search for it again and going down that Google rabbit hole that I know nobody else goes down. It's only me. I know. I understand. I'm the only one with that distraction problem, because I'm kind of part squirrel. But then you have the character tabs. Now the character tabs, you can arrange these characters by books. So these are the books. These are all the characters that are in the entire series. Then we're going to write a series, so we have different characters for different books. So we can arrange the characters by books. We can change different things about them by books. You can create your own character categories. You can create your own character attributes, something you want to know about every single character. And you can also click in here. You notice that you can add a thumbnail image. You can also add images down here, and you can add character templates as well. We have over 20 of these character templates, including like the D&D sheets. If you're a D&D gamer and kind of a nerd, you might like those a lot. And we also have one that's really popular with romance authors is the online dating profile. And so this particular one, you could make a file of what your character's Tinder file would look like or something like that. So that could be super helpful. Romance writers tend to love that one. So that one's kind of fun. Anyway, so that's characters. You can do the same thing with places. What I do with places a lot is a lot of my places are based on real places, even though I changed the name because nobody wants a murder to happen at their place of business. So if negative things happen there, I change the name. But I'll post a Google Street View link in here. So for instance, if I was writing something about a place, let's say that I had visited in Jamaica on my next trip, and I wanted to set something in one of my books there, I would put a Google Maps link here that I could click on and go to that Street View and describe that to my readers and come back out. And the other thing that's really powerful is tags. So you can add tags to different things. The one I use for my books is the action level, slow, medium, and fast. I use that often. So I can tag a scene like that, and I can go to my project tab and filter through those and look at, like, if I have a whole bunch of slow scenes in a row, that doesn't work. You can also manage your whole series here. My biggest series right now that's in Plottr has 25 books, 16 of which are written. So there will actually be a total of 50 books overall in that series, although there's some changes happening in that series. But there will be a total of 50 books overall. So far, 25 of them are planned in Plottr and 16 of them are done. And they're all housed in the same place. As they're published, I put the covers on them as I go along. I use that. You can also do an overall series view if you're writing a series that has all of the things about your book in one, about all of your books in one location. So you can look at an overall series arc. Even if you're doing a series of like business books, like I'm doing a series of books on plotting and different aspects of plotting, and those books, I can all house them right here. So I can look at the overall arc of that series of nonfiction. So there's that as well. The other thing to look at is we have a bunch of plot starter templates, and we're coming up with some nonfiction ones that are coming out very soon. So these are all the starter templates. There are over 30, and we're adding new ones all the time. You probably recognize some of these. To be quite honest with you, the one that fits the most for nonfiction, if you kind of have to twist your thinking a little bit, is the hero's journey. That's because basically what you're doing, even if you're doing an inspirational advice type books, is you're taking the reader on a hero's journey. And so if you're thinking a little bit, you can use the hero's journey very much as a template for an inspirational nonfiction that's basically trying to solve, or instructional that's trying to solve a problem that your reader has. Now, the other thing is, obviously, Plottr is not a writing software. It is a planning software that is designed to get you to the writing process. So the last thing that was super exciting to me, one of the first things I asked about was an export, because I happen to write in Scrivener, but you can export to Word or Scrivener, and most other writing programs out there will take a Word file, and then you can turn that into that software, whatever that software needs to work. And there's an advanced export. This is what I usually use because I can choose what I export. And in the case of Scrivener, I can choose where parts of it go. And for me, this is really important. If you don't use Scrivener and this all looks really confusing, don't worry about it. It's not related to you. So that is my quick, as fast as I can do it, 5-minute demo of Plottr.
Okay, thank you so much, Troy. That was fun. I'm sorry for those who are just listening, but you can hop on over to YouTube and you'll be able to see what he just showed us. In my layman's term, as a person who is seeing a demo of Plottr or an overview of it for the first time, what comes to mind is that this is like a project management software for authors. And so I do writing series, and I find myself sometimes saying, did I include that story in that book? Or sometimes I take a larger book and I break it into smaller books for specific audiences. Like Authorpreneur Secrets, it has 3 parts. So it has publishing, it has writing, and it has basically marketing and monetizing. And I took out the writing part, expanded it, and made the book The Rocket Writer, which is how to write a book in 24 hours. And so sometimes I have to go back and say, did I include that in this book? Am I repeating? Am I expanding? And so what I'm seeing with Plottr is that it allows you to make notes on each book, and you can make notes on your chapters so that you can remember what you included in one book and you don't have to repeat it. As you said about the eye color, the characters for fiction, when you're doing these long series, sometimes you forget the color of the car, the place, you forget who fell in love with whom, whose child was this character's child, that kind of thing. So it helps you, as you said, this is a Bible, a series Bible. So it helps you to keep track of your characters, to keep track of your content, to keep track of your plot, to keep track of your themes. It could be for nonfiction. And so I'm seeing it as a planning and a project management tool. And, you know, in Word, some things are all over the place. So you have to go back there, go back there. I'm seeing in Plottr where the things are organized and easier to find. And then it's easy to export. As you said, it can be exported in Word. And for those who are familiar with Scrivener, they can use that. Did I capture the essence of Plottr?
That is actually a pretty good summary. That's a pretty good summary of the essence of Plottr. What I like to call it a story management software, but SMS was already taken. So
I love it.
But you know what I mean? It really is. And so on the nonfiction side of things, first of all, nonfiction is still a story.
Yes.
You're still telling a story. And truth be told, many nonfiction authors, so I've done a lot of ghostwriting as well. And I just tell people, if it is not a story, then it's probably not a book. The reader wants to go on a journey, whatever that journey looks like. Now, it might be a journey of understanding a new concept or a new product that they can use, or using a new system to up their career, right? And there's tons of books out there about that, but it is a story. It's your journey. If you're writing a memoir, it needs to still be a story. If it's just a series of interesting events that have happened in your life, there are very few people that are going to be interested in that other than as stories around a campfire. If we're going to invest our time to read a book, we want an actual story. So when I say story management, I mean fiction stories, nonfiction stories, whatever kind of stories you're telling, if you are designing scripts, you could do that in Plottr. If you are, I have a gal that I'm working with who's writing a television show, and she's managing the episodes and the seasons and then the series overall arc in Plottr, because it's very possible to do that just using the different tools. You just have to think kind of and apply them differently. So there's an infinite number of ways to manage story within a single program. So that's really the beauty of it. Manages everything related to your story. It can. You don't have to, but you can.
I love that. Now, let's get down to the nitty-gritty. You've convinced us of why we should get it. So how much does it cost?
Okay. So Plottr is actually, so this is what I'll tell you is Plottr is actually super cheap. So there's a couple ways you can buy it. You can buy a desktop version. The desktop version is $29. I think at the lowest level is $29 for an annual single license. And then you can move up to 3 licenses. Now, what that means is how many machines do you actually use to plot and plan your books? Because you may write on all kinds of different machines. And if you're like me, I use Plottr during the writing process too, which is a whole other discussion, right? So it depends on how many devices you actually use for that process. If you have a single desktop and that's where you do your writing, that's all you need, 1 license, right? The annual licensing, I like to explain it like at the end of the year, that doesn't mean that Plottr disappears and sucks all your files into a black hole and we go, oh man, that's too bad. That looks like it really hurt. No, we don't do that. You just don't get the updates of the software after a year. So you can buy a legacy Plottr version. I still have somewhere. It's like old school Plottr version. And then you keep that version forever and you just never update, right? But because we're doing updates all the time, and obviously because of internet security and all those type of things, I tell you, just get the updates. But if for some reason you couldn't or you missed your renewal date, it's not a big deal. You can buy a lifetime version, same way, either one license or 3 licenses. I think the lifetime version is $99 now. I should have pulled up the prices. I think it's either $79 or $99 for that particular one. And then we have Plottr Pro. Now, the difference with Plottr Pro is a web-based version. The biggest advantages of Plottr Pro is if you're collaborating with another author, you can work on the same file in real time. So people are like, well, should I save my files to the cloud or whatever? I'm like, yes, you should if you save them to OneDrive or Dropbox and you have the regular desktop version, right? I lost part of a novel once. I don't tell that story. I need lots of Jamaican rum to tell that story, right? But so I'm a backup king, right? So I want everything in the cloud and on my computer on all the places. I want it everywhere, right? So for me, I go, okay, I'm going to save it in a cloud drive. But the thing with that is you don't want to have the same file open on 2 different machines at the same time. You'll create what's called versioning issues. Now, I write words, not code. I don't know how that works. What I know is that the software people that say all the code words that are big and mean things that I don't know what they are, tell me that creates versioning issues, right? So you don't want to do that. You'll overwrite your own versions and you'll lose material, and don't do it. But if you have Plottr Pro and the web version, you can have that same document open on more than one machine with no problems. And you can also share it with someone else who has Plottr Pro. So like I edit with people, I'm co-writing with some people that we share our same file, our same Plottr file, and can work on it at the same time. And this is a huge advantage. And I do it with editing clients as well, where we'll work with your Plottr file at the same time. And you can see, I can go, see, there's a plot hole. And then but at the same time, I can type something in there and say, see, this is how you fix it. You can see me doing that in real time. Super, super useful. That one there's an annual, I believe the annual is $99 a year, or it's $300 for lifetime. And the lifetime, it's kind of, if you're going to use Plottr, if you like Plottr, you're going to use it for the lifetime's a no-brainer. It pays for itself in a few years. You just don't ever have to worry about a renewal date or anything like that. But if you want to just try Plottr, start with a one device at $29, first of all. And second of all, we have a 30-day money-back guarantee. So basically, if you try it for 30 days and you go, man, I hate this, it's terrible. First of all, tell us why you think it's terrible, why you don't like it, because that's very helpful for us. Most of our improvements and the things that we do come from suggestions from writers, because we're writers, and so we want to make the software work well for writers. So tell us why you didn't like it, but just ask for your money back and we'll give it to you. Or it's $30 for a pretty powerful and amazing software. So give it a shot on one device, and then if you decide you're going to use it in other ways, you can always upgrade to some other method if you really fall in love with it.
Okay, thank you so much. And we have left out the elephant in the room. We are saying Plottr, and I don't know if anyone in the viewing or listening audience has gone to type in Plotter. Can you tell us the spelling of Plottr and where we can find it online?
So it's Plottr without the E. So plottr.com without the E. Although if you Google Plottr with an E, there are sometimes when it will ask you, do you mean Plottr? And it'll show you that website. But Google it without the E, or go directly to our website, plottr.com. Find free demos, free trial, all that kind of stuff. We also have a huge YouTube channel where I've interviewed a lot of writers about how they use Plottr, including some for nonfiction. And so we actually took one of the books from the guy from Reedsy. We took his book and took it apart, put it on a Plottr timeline, and showed how you can write that book using Plottr. So super useful information. And all kinds of interviews with different authors, because you're going to have that moment when you figure out how Plottr is going to fit into your writing process, because it's going to be different than how it fits into mine or someone else's, but you can get ideas from other people about how this might work for you. We also have a really active Facebook group. If you pop into that Facebook group, if you have questions you think I can answer, tag me. I will show up in that group and answer those questions, sometimes more quickly than others. If I'm on deadline for a book, for instance, I may not be there as quickly as you would like because I'm off writing. Thank you so much, Troy. We're going to put those links in the show notes. And so that is, So folks, I'm going to put the links in the show notes, and that's plottr.com. So you can go and check it out. I'm really excited about
this software, and I'm going to be checking it out. And I want to thank Troy for coming and sharing with us his story and this wonderful tool that's going to help to make the journey easier for our authors. So Troy, thanks for coming and all the best.
Thank you for having me, Ruth. I appreciate it.
No problem. I trust that you enjoyed this episode, and I want you to share it with your friends. I want you to test out Plottr and join my Patreon support group. The links are in the show notes. This is Ruth Taylor saying, thanks for listening or watching. Remember to also subscribe to my YouTube channel. Help me reach my first 1,000 subscribers. And ta for now, until next time.